Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're in Masechtas Sanhedrin daf Samech Ches. We are going to begin the last three words on Samech Zayin Mebez Rabbi Kiva Hulu as we continue Samech Ches Amud Aleph. So we were learning when it came to different forms of kishuf, witchcraft, in which then itself we learned in yesterday's daf. According to most opinions, the punishment is skila. So we now continue with the following. For Rabbi Kiva, Rabbi Yeshua Gamrula, is it true that Rabbi Kiva learned it out from Rabbi Yeshua? So let's just quickly see this quote from the Mishnah that says that Rabbi Kiva Omer Mishum Rabbi Yeshua. It says he said it in the name of Rabbi Yeshua. If you have two people gathering cucumbers, one is actually accomplishes something, Zoisamais will be Chayav Misa. One who's called Oiches Esenayim, one who's basically just tricking you, is not going to be Chayav. So we have the following story, which is going to show that actually Rabbi Kiva did not learn it from Yeshua. Vosanya, Kishachol Rabbi Eliezer, when Rabbi Eliezer was sick, Nichnasu Rabbi Kiva v'chaver b'vakroi. Rabbi Kiva went to visit him. So, Hu Yoishev Bikinof Shalo, he was sitting in like a canopy, and Yoshvin Betrakalin Shalo, and they were sitting in some type of an entrance. Okay, so Rashi's Kinof is Arba Amudim, like more in Masechta Sukkah talks about Mishnah and Sukkah, whether you can sleep underneath a kinof in a Sukkah and be Yaitse. Anyway, that's where they were sitting. It was a Friday. V'nichnas Horkanus benoi. So Rabbi Eliezer's son Horkanus came out. Lachos tefillah, to take off the tefillin. It says Rashi, his father's tefillin. The Ksavar Shabbos lavzman tefillin ho. You're not supposed to wear tefillin on Shabbos. The Osir, interesting language. Osir. You can't keep them on Shemi Yotzmehen or Rosh Hashanah, because you may end up going out to Rosh Hashanah. Taisa says, Perish Kuntris, Shel Rebbe Lezer, they were Rebbe Lezer's tefillin. Afgad the Lo Haya Rebbe Lezer Zoz Memokoim Echad Karli Iser Shvus. The Chol She'Osur Chachamim Latzis Bo Rosh Hashanah Asur Latzis Bo Chatzer V'hu Den Afil Yoshi B'Makom Echad Asur. So this guy was sick. So what was the likelihood he's going to start walking around in the middle of Rosh Hashanah? He's dying. Nonetheless, it teaches us this point. So fine. So let's continue. So Garbo, he was rebuked. Yotzeb and Zifa, and the son left out like in a huff of sorts. Amalahin lechaverav kimedaima ani shedaitu shel abba nitrafa. It seems that you're not so clear, that your mind is not very clear, and you must be close to dying because all your son was doing was taking off your tefillin. Like, why is that so bad? It's almost Shabbos. It makes sense to do that. Shermalahen, no. Daiti v'das imoi datoi. My son's das, Horkanus's das, das imo nitrafa. Heich menichin iser skila. How can you be remove an Isser Skila and be Isaac in an Isser Shvus? What is that referring to? So Rashi says Isser Skila is Hadlakas and air. When it comes to lighting the Shabbos candles, V'hatamanas Chamin, and cooking food, V'Oiskin B'davar Sheinu El Isser Shvus. The Maniach Tefillin B'Shabbos Ein Kan Isser Malacha. So basically you're saying that there's no need for you to do this at this time because you have more important things to do. Getting ready for Shabbos, don't worry about taking off my tefillin. So Taisus basically says under circumstances, it seems like the circumstances he was going to do it now, not later, although it seems to be when it says starting Raptam Halikos and air, Hadlikas Ner should be afterwards, and over here it says Hadlakas Ner, that it mentions it first. Okay, you look in Taisus, Mashma de Madlikin v'Acha Cholzen, because that's the order that it's brought down. V'Kasha de Beperek Madlikin Mashma Ivcha the sign is Shlishus Lahadakas Ner that it says you light candles last. So why is it first? You take out the tefillin last, and you light the fourth time. The fourth thing you should do is light Va'od kasha atu what horkanis lo yadim and hago. He didn't know the general custom. So Taisa says Yeshlam davadi tefillin bereisha. You really take out the tefillin first. Elishim Isa Shah Ichru Hadlik. They pushed off lighting. They're so busy with his sickness. So basically, the idea was that he was the reason why things were a little bit out of sorts on that day was all these guests right before Shabbos, and therefore everything was out of sorts. Once they saw that he understood, so originally they gave him some space because they didn't know. But once they saw that he was actually feeling fine, they were at least 4 amos away. It says Rashi Mimnei Hanidoi. Rabbi Eliezer was actually in Cherum. The famous Gemara Baba Metzia and Daf Nun Tes about how he argued regarding a particular oven, literally, which has so many halachas like wrapped around like snakes, but it just means it's a specific oven. Is it tameh? Is it tahar? And he said the walls of the base medrash will prove, the water will prove, the heavens will prove that the halacha is like me. He was put into Cherum because of that. And here he was still in Cherum. Armalei lama basim. He says, why did you come? What are you guys doing here? Armalei lima tarabon. We want to learn from you. Armalei yad achshav lama lo basim. So if you really want to learn, you should have come before. Armalei lo hayalanu panai. We did not have time. So is it really panai? The Yad Ramah says, really, it's because of nidoi, but out of COVID, they said that they just didn't have any time. The Chesed Yom says you can't lie. And I the Margos Hayom, and then the Ben Yehoyada regarding this, when they say we just didn't have the time, whether that was the truth. Armalahen Timiani, I'd be shocked. Im Yamusu Misas Atzman, if I would die a natural death. Armalo Rabbi Kiva Shali Mahu, what will be with me? Armalo Shulcha Kasha Shulahen, your death will be even worse than anyone else's, which of course we know Rabbi Kiva's through the Asar Harugi Malchus, as the Gemara toward the end of Brachos discusses the tragic death, including having his flesh torn with iron combs, certainly is the most gruesome of all deaths. Okay. Natal shtei zeraisav. So Rabbi Eliezer showed his two hands, his two arms. V'nichan al libo, and he put them on his heart. Omer, Rabbi Eliezer said, Oy lechem shtei zeraisai. Woe are my two hands, shehin kashtei sifrei Torah, she niglolim. It's like two sifrei Torah. It's like a sefer Torah, shnei sefer Torah, which are being rolled up. You're rolling up a Torah, and it's going to be lost. It won't be reopened. Just like the Torah which I have inside of me, like I'm rolled up. There's not going to, all the Torah that I have will be forgotten. Harbi Torah lamadati, v'harbi Torah limadati. I may have taught a lot of Torah, but I still have a lot more to learn and a lot to teach. Fine. Harbe Torah lamadati v'loi chasarti m'raboisa afilu kikelev tamalakik minayam. So what does that mean? I learned a lot of Torah because I took away a lot of Torah from my teachers, that even comparable to a dog that's licking from the sea. It's constantly licking and licking to try to get as much as it possibly can. That's how much Torah I searched and tried to get from my teachers. Harbe Torah Lamati, I taught a lot of Torah. However, the amount that they learned is only comparable like a container, and you put a toothpick or Q-tip, and you take a little bit out of an plier from this container, such a small little drop, basically. that language is used in a lot of places, in Makos and Chagiga. V'lo oid ela shani shani shayna shosh meyois halachos bivaharas aza. I learned 300 halachos regarding saras. No one ever asked me any of these questions, and I have so much Torah that I have, and this is almost a little bit of a rebuke on them. Like, why didn't you come before? I have so much Torah I need to give over, and there's not going to be enough time to do it. 300, maybe 3,000 laws, Bentias Kishuin, regarding planting cucumbers. Again, this goes back to what we're talking about with Kishuv. Don't forget there's a question coming up. Only one time, one person asked me a question about cucumbers, and I have 300 or 3,000 things that I was able to contribute to. And of course, this is mini kshafim, forms of witchcraft. So what was the story? I and Rabbi Kiva went, Mahalchan, Haidu B'derech, on the road. Amar Rabbi, so what happened? And this is the key point, that Rabbi Kiva learned from Rabbi Eliezer, apparently not from Rabbi Yeshua. He said, teach me about the forms of witchcraft and sorcery with cucumbers. So Amarti Davar Echad. So Rabbi Kiva, said one word. Rabbi Eliezer said one word. And this Malikol HaSadak Kishuim, all of a sudden an entire empty field became filled with cucumbers. Amrli Rabbi Lamatenin Netiyasan Lamtin Akirasan. Taught me how to get them all over the place. How do you gather them or uproot them? So Marti Davar Echad Niskabsu Kulon L'Makom Echad. I said another word, and they all gathered in one place. So they said to him, Hakadur, a ball of leather, Va'omos, and a form for a shoe, Va'kameya, and an amulet, Visror, Hamargolius, and a sack with pearls, V'hamashgolois katana mahu, and a small weight. What is the din? So what exactly is all this? There's a lot going on over here. So let's look at Rashi. So Rashi says like this. What exactly were they asking all these different things? So says Rashi of the Sur HaMargolius. Tarifin HaMargolius Ba'or. Let's say you sewed up a jewel, a pearl, inside of a sack of leather, and you hung it over the neck of an animal for medicinal purposes. Mahu, what's the din? This actually is brought down in Masechtas Kalim, a machlokas Rabbi Eliezer and Chachamim. Chachamim amrim ein mekabel tuma. Chachamim say it's not mekabel tuma if he shikli or ein mekabel tuma, because since it's made out of leather, it's not mekabel tuma. El im ken yesh lo beis kibul, only if it has receptacle. Da iskish l'sak, has to be like sack. Bahani, but these hoyel v'kibun nasis mulosan. It's filled up with stuffing. Moli b'saycha lomus, and it's going to remain like that forever. Lo shmei kibul. It's not considered to be a kibul. So it's also going to sukkah regarding dini tuma of what's considered to be a base kibul. So the fact that it's completely filled up and it's always going to remain that way, it doesn't count as a base kibul because you can't put anything into it. It's all filled and sealed. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Mekabel Tuma says no, it is tamei. The base kibul ha'asulu malo shmei kibul. When it comes to a base kibul which could be filled up, even though it's sewed up, it's still a base kibul and it's tamei. Vo nechachu. They also argued b'kadur, by a ball, v'ivos, as well as a form. Shenikra, that it tore open, the near halal shalahem, that you can see its cavity. The moide rabbanan, says Rashi, the mekabel tuma. In that case, the rabbanan agree that it's tamei. The ha'ika base kibul, upligil in tefillah, and they argue regarding immersing these kalim. whatever's inside is a chatzitza. It's not a chatzitza. Chad klihu. It's all considered to be like one kli. They want to know im chazerbo, did he retract? What do you say regarding them? So Amalahen tamein, they're tamei. Afilu shleimim v'hitma noigas mevachutz. Okay, so Amalahen hein tamein, they're tamei. Utarosim b'ma shahain. And there's tahar which is within them. Says Rashi Klamer, im nikru, if you rip it open, shechachamim moedim shemekabel tuma, then because it's ripped open, so there is a base kibble, so it's mekabel tuma. V'chalukin alai loimer, and I disagree. Shemali chaytzeitz v'oimed, and I need b'divrari. I stand with my words. Shahamoli enu chaytzeitz shematbilin kamo shehain. You can be just immerse it the way it is. So what do we see? They asked him a kasha, and he said it was tamei. Minal shal gabi ovos mahu. How about when it comes to the shoe that's on the form still? What is that? Is that considered to be tamei or tahar? This is also something which they argued in a Tosefta in Taharos. Rashi brings down. It says that the enu mechusar malacha. It's not anything which is not missing a malacha. L'chayra, it should be mekabel toma. Rabbi Lezer metaher shedayin l'nigmer malachto. He says no, actually it's not been completed since it's still on its form, where the avos is how you create the shoe. So since it's still there, so therefore it's not mekabel toma. Hu tahar. So we see that he stuck to his words. He didn't change, which is an amazing thing. V'yotzin nishmasa b'tahara. And when he said the word tahar, that's precisely how he died. Fine. So again, as we said, these were all leather kalim that needed a base kibble to be tamei. The Aruch HaNer said he ended with his last word was tahar, and that was it. So fine, which is a fascinating thing. So maybe they kept asking questions that they knew his answer was going to be tahar. They first asked him a kasha about, and the answer was tamei, and then the next one was tahar. So we see that it wasn't just a coincidence that he died after he said the word tahar, but it shows again the greatness of Rabbi Lezer. Amar Rabbi Yeshua Raglav Yemer Hutter Haneder Hutter Haneder. They removed the neder because apparently even as a person has died, he could still be meis benidoi, and as the Gemara in the third parak in Brachos discusses that you actually will put a stone on the kever or on the on the casket. Well, Moitzi Shabbos, so that was all on Erev Shabbos. Saturday night, Pagabo Rabbi Kiva ben Kisri Lulud. So Rabbi Kiva encountered him. Haya Make Bibsaro Achidama Shaisis Aretz. And he was hitting his flesh until blood poured onto the ground. Pasal Bashura, and they went into a row. The Yomer, and he said, Avi Rachav Yisrael Parashov, my father is the chariot of Yisrael and his horsemen. Harbi Mois Yeshli, Ve'enli Shulchani L'Hartzaisan. I have all this money, but I have no ability to change the money. I have a bunch of $100 bills, but they're worthless. So it's like I have so much that he gave me, but I have no one to be able to break it down. Right? This is interesting. This pasuk is actually the same pasuk that Elisha said when Eliyahu died. So it's an interesting choice. Alma, anyway, that's the story. So some people ask, so because he said tahar, therefore that's how they knew they should stop the nidoi. But why did they ask these questions? It was a test to see how he died, saying which word, tamei or tahar. Okay. Anyway, nice story, but Alma Rabbi Lezer Gamra. So all of this is to tell us, going back to what we began with, that Rabbi Akiva, did he really learn it from Rabbi Yeshua? We see from this whole story, learn from Rabbi Lezer. So Gamam Rabbi Lezer, really he learned it originally from Rabbi Lezer, Vosvara, but he didn't completely understand everything. And there, Hadar Gamam Rabbi Yeshua Vasvara Nihile, that afterwards was taught to him. So Rabbi Yeshua, as we know the stories, or Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Gamliel, he had a different type of disposition. Rabbi Eliezer, we can see, is a much stronger minded person. So he was taught the Maaseh Kishuim, but it was something which perhaps he didn't have the opportunity to really sit down with him and have it explained clearly. Okay, so that's the answer. So we have a bigger question. How is Rabbi Eliezer able to do kshavim? You be chayv misa for doing this. Yeah, but shani. He was doing it to teach. You're not allowed to learn these things in order to engage in witchcraft and sorcery. So it's an interesting thing that there's nothing wrong. Of course, you have to have a strong mind like a Rabbi Eliezer, but you have to know all these things so that you'll be able to disprove and discredit people. So if you don't know what's going on in the world, and then all of a sudden people present something to you, you may think they're right. That's why you need to know what they know. And therefore, when you know what they know, you'll be able to know that that is sheker, and that you, and everything about your Torah, and everything about Hashem and Torah is emes. Okay. All right. Let's just see if there's another question here. Okay. Hanulach arba misos, which concludes that parak. We're now in the 8th parak of a Ben Sarah Myra, famous Gemara, famous Sugya, this wayward, rebellious son. So Ben Sarah Myra may mostly Nasa Ben Sarah Myra. When does a child, what is the age range? Yeshevish Cyrus, when he produces 2 hairs, which is typically, it says 13. V'ad shi Yaakov Zakin, hatachtain, when his tachtain, his bottom area, produces pubic hairs, vo ha'elyon, but not his face. El shedavar chacham b'lashon nekiya. The Torah we use a more kind, soft language, but that's what it means. That's right. It says el shedavar chacham b'lashon nekiya. Nemar kiya la'ish ben. It says when you have a child, ish, he's an ish, but he's still a ben. Ben, what is the drasha? Ben v'labas. Even if you have a rebellious daughter, she doesn't have the same halachos as a ben sarmar, which we'll see what they are. Ben v'lo ish. It's only someone who's a son, but not someone who's already like a full-fledged adult. Katan pater shlobo chal mitzvahs. And someone who's a katan also is pater, because he's a katan, and a katan is not a ben oinshim. So for the Gemara, that's pretty obvious that should be the din. Katan, menolan the pater, menolan get a tiny time, a shloim balachal mitzvahs. We already know these pater. Basu heichashchan the onish akasav the hacha liboy krol miftere. Where else in the Torah do we find that we're going to punish a katan that we need to exclude him here? It doesn't make sense. We never find that we punish a katan. So why do we need a drasha? Oh, it's dafka if he's a ben v'lo ish, and the katan is pater because he. What do you mean? So your answer is, in this case, it's different. Anan hachi kaminan. This is what we meant. This is what the question of katan menolan. This is what we said. Atu what? Ben Sar Myra al Chatu Nerag. Is it because of what he did already? Al Shem Saiva Nerag. We kill him on what he potentially will do. He's going down a very dark path. Givan di al Shem Saiva Nerag. Since we're going to kill him on what he will do, not what he's done anyway, so then I feel katanami. So therefore, maybe we would even kill a katan that's acting this way. Because we're not sentencing this Ben Saramor to death because something that he actually absolutely Me'ikra didn't deserves, but we see that this is the derech that he's going, and he ultimately will end up becoming someone subject to death. And so why should we allow this to continue to unfold? He's going to end up murdering people. But furthermore, Ben, the pasuk says Ben v'lo ish, which implies not someone who is an adult. Katan mashma. So it should include someone therefore under 13. That fact that we're saying Ben v'lo ish Ish means maybe someone's just bar mitzvah. Therefore, maybe it is coming to include a katan. So, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rav, Diarmer Kra, this is how you answer it. Diarmer Kra, the pasuk says, V'chiyah li'ish ben. Ish is the type of son. Ben hasamach l'gvuraso shel ish. This is referring to when he becomes a man. That's what it's referring to. It says that kiyeh li'ish ben. That you're ben, you have a son, but he's li'ish. He's becoming a man. He's like in this stage of adolescence. And at this point is where the din of Ben Saramora applies. Okay. Let's look at question 11. Madu Isra Kro Lifter Ben Sara Kashu Katan V'chimatzinu B'chol Torah Einish Katan. We don't punish a katan, so what's going on over here? So one answer is Sachadalimina Kivan Shenarg Shlo Bechetoi, not because of his current sins, El Shem Saifo, I feel katan nam, you would think, or the fact that it says Ben Vlo Ish. So why does it say Ben Vlo Ish? Not an adult. Maybe a katan is allowed. We do punish him as a katan. Question 12. Ad Masai Yomov Shel Ben Sar Moira Mishahevi Beis Cyrus. So we're going to end up saying Ad Gimel Chadashim. It's really 3 months. O Ad Shiakif Zaken. It's until, right? It says the Ad Shiakif Zaken. Not that he has this, but once you see that he's Shiakiv Zaken, that he already shows signs of physical maturity, then at that point he's already considered to be too old to be under the category of Ben Sarmara. And we're going to also see it's really a 3-month window of between 13 and 3 months. Va'ad shiyakiv zakin hatachtain. That's the cutoff time. So Tani Rav Chia ad shiyakiv atara, until the atara, the crown of his gid, is covered with hairs. Kios Rav Dimi omer hakafas gid v'lo hakafas beitzim. Hakafas gid is an earlier stage than having hakafas beitzim, that there is hair on his testicles. Omer Rav Chisda katan shahayilid, when you have a child that gives birth, ein benoi nas ben saramarish nemer ki el ish ben v'lo ben. A teen. This shows about teenage pregnancies. So the only time is the child could become a ben saramara, but not if the ben has a son who is a ben saramara. We're not going to punish him. Now, Rabbi Yehuda Marav. I thought we already used this whole drasha before to teach us Rabbi Yehuda Marav's din, that it's somach gvurasai. That's coming to tell you the age limit of when you can become a ben saramara. So im kain, if it was only for Rav, lemekra kiyeh ben leish, and that shows again that's the beginning of becoming like a man. My kiyeh leish ben shemamina. Look at Rav Chisda, that it's talking about on the father. The father himself cannot be a ben to punish the son. They makul hachudas. So maybe that's all it's come to teach us, like the din of Rav Chisda. Jaim kain nemakra ben ish, my leish. Why does it add the lamed? A ben. Shemamin atarti teaches 2 things. Now, pligid rabba diyama rabba katan ein moiled. This whole notion of ein ben, it's lola ben. Sounds like a katan could get a woman pregnant, but according to him, it's not true. It's a physical impossibility that this could take place. Shnemer, the pasuk says, "Im ein leish goyel." It says if a person does not have anyone to redeem. So Rashi says this is gabe gezel, someone who stole. The nishbal sheker, and the guy lies regarding the fact that he stole. So there's a din that he has to bring a carbon asham, and he has to also return the object itself. Okay. Now, it says, what happens if there's no one to redeem? It says, Rashi, Adam b'Yisrael she'en lo goalim. The truth is, there can't be anyone like this. Kozman shul kol b'nei Yaakov ha'karv koidim. You're going to find some relative. Adam b'Yisrael she'en lo goyel el b'gezel ger kas medaber. The only possibility is you're talking about a ger. So someone who converted, so he doesn't have any children or family, so the ger could have, may not have yorship. Says Rashi, Gezel ger umeisel achar shenishmalo the ein lo yorshim. So he dies afterwards, and there are no yorshim. As we continue to Chav Samach Testament Aleph, the Yom Rachman ish. So what do we see over here? It says ish. Ish atatzarach lasolav. If it's an adult, then you have to check to see if he actually has kids. Im yeshul goal mimlav. If he has other relatives. Katan atatzarach lasolav yadu shein lo goalim. We see clearly this cannot happen. It's not possible that someone could have children as a katan. So therefore, you wouldn't be able to learn this drush to begin with. It says Taisus over here, Hamrin l'kaman b'shmaisin daris harishonim hayu ma'ilidim b'cheshanim. We're going to see in this Masechta that people used to give birth at 8 years old. V'yishlemer shaval pi shebadaris hachronim nasnu chachamim simin l'havos sa'aros l'katnus bas yud beis shana v'yom echad l'katan ben yud gimel shana v'yom echad. So it used to be that they would mature, like nowadays, 12 and 13. But Daras Rishonim Shahayim Mahirin Lahavi Saris Hayazman Gadlos Mekainim Harbe. They actually would be able to have produced Simanim at a much younger age. So just because we see what took place before does not mean it's what's going on now. So it's not like a contradiction, but people, like we see, people are living longer, or there's different illnesses. There's a whole bunch of things that that this applies to. Okay, fine. And we have this lengthy taisus, and it says from here, Shaykh l'daf samach testament base. So we're going to hold off of that. All right. Let's see if there's another question. Question TA 17. Ma havamina ben saramari noiga fil b'katan. So this we had, TA 17. One answer is Al Shem Saifo. We see clearly that he wasn't supposed to be killed because of what he did wrong, because he didn't do anything to really deserve it, but it's Al Shem Saifo, so therefore he should kill the Katan as well. Or alternatively, because the pasuk says Ben Vlo Ish, so if it's coming to exclude an Ish, maybe that means a Katan is Chayiv, and that's what we derive from that. TB 18. Madu isur kro liftor ben sara kishu katan v'chimatzin b'chol Torah einshin b'katan. We never find that a katan is punished. So this is what I wrote. Kosev b'pasuk ben ish v'zeh ulay afilu katan. I would say ben ish. Right, so it's an ish v'lo katan, and therefore it would include a katan. V'nei al shem soiv v'nerag im kain afil kishu katan. So basically it's the same question, which is TB 18. So for those two reasons, we at least had a havamina that maybe Taki would be you would be chayiv. Question 19: Is a gil bias hakatan bia adkan?